be able to join. Welcome to our pre-health orientation. We're going to jump right in with our introductions to our wonderful panelists here. And I hope that you are now seeing the screen. I'll go ahead and let the panelists introduce themselves.
Okay, I will start. Sorry for the disruptive start. Technology is a bit of a challenge. Listen, first off, I'm going to just appreciate those of you who have your screens on. It is really nice to talk to faces as opposed to blank screens because we've been doing that for the past 2 years. And I'm going to tell you as a speaker, it's really hard to talk to blank screens. So for those of you who can turn your screens on, I'd really appreciate seeing some actual faces. Thank you. My name is Dr. Tomás Magaña. I am the co-faculty lead for the Aspiring Physicians Program at San Francisco State University. I am a pediatrician, adolescent medicine doctor, which means that I focus very much my practice on youth between the ages of 11 and 24 years old. I've worked at children's hospitals, juvenile justice centers, and I currently am the lead doctor in the Department of School-Based Health Centers at La Clínica de la Raza in the East Bay. And I've done a lot of work with regard to pathway work and getting young people into health professions so that we have better representation of our various communities in healthcare. So I'll be speaking to you all and happy to offer some of my thoughts. Thank you. And thank you again for those of you who turned on your screen. I'll remember your faces.
All right, so I will go ahead and jump in. Apologies once again. It's like, it wouldn't be right if something didn't go wrong. That just means it's going to be an awesome session for all of you all that took time out of your day to show up here. So first off, congratulations to you and kudos for showing up, because that's always the first step. My name is Dr. Kelechi Uwaezuoke. I am the Assistant Director for Diversity, Inclusion, and Community Partnerships for SF BUILD. My partner in crime / passion, Dr. Magaña, is exactly who he says he is. I've known him for over half my life, since I was you all's age back in undergrad at UC Berkeley. Go Bears. And he has been an amazing mentor to me for all of these 20+ years, and now it's amazing to get to work together. So looking around the room, you never know who is going to be your colleague in the future, right? So take note of that. So my life's work and passion is all about supporting historically underrepresented students, particularly pre-med, pre-health students. My dissertation focused on a qualitative research study to better understand the lived experiences of underrepresented pre-med students in the UC system. And so that is the work that I carry with me every single day, making sure that you all have exactly what you need to the best of my ability and my colleagues' ability to support you in your genuine and authentic health careers and dreams. So looking forward to sharing some information with you today and serving as a resource however I can.
Thank you so much. And Dr. K's here. He said he was going to be back and forth seeing patients. You may note that we cannot even fit these wonderful professionals' qualifications on this slide, but they are everything that they have said and more. I mentioned in the beginning, as we are having the technical difficulties, it's my role to help undergraduate students. So I answer the biology@sfsu.edu emails, and hopefully I can be a point person for you along your career as well. So I was curious if anybody had any set goals. I have actually a Zoom poll in case we wanted to check that out. Hopefully that's popped up on your screen. Do you see your intended profession of interest up here? And if not, you can go ahead and answer the last option and type yours in the chat. Health is such an all-encompassing term, and we want to invite you to step in wherever you see yourself. So we'll have a general set of resources here today. I'm seeing a fair amount of nursing students, optometry, pharmacy, physician's assistant, and some others. pediatrician, physician's assistant. We don't have a nurse practitioner up there, so people type that in. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Obstetrician. So I'm going to leave it to you to explore that during your time at SF State, and our role is to support you in getting to that goal. Thank you so much. Wow, Cade, thank you so much for sharing, Rosa. Nashali, wonderful. I wanted to call you in here to really think about what brings you here. What got you interested in a health-related career? And how do you see that persisting on your mission throughout all the work it's going to take you, all the big picture and the details? And I'm going to give you just a little bit of time to type that in the chat. As Dr. Magaña was saying, you know, you will probably see each other pop up along your pathways, and these little anecdotes might be helpful in making sure that you identify those who are like-minded and have similar goals. So if you want to drop your thoughts in the chat, I'm sure it takes a while to construct that and really say how you want to say it. Wow. And because of our technical difficulties, I hope you're developing that. I'm going to move forward so that we can get to using the incredible advice from our professionals. This will hopefully loop back around in our discussion of personal statements. I'm really excited about all the reasons you have, and that's one reason I love being a helper at SF State University. SF State students are like no other. So I want to highlight these different pathways to the different careers. This is only a subset. So whatever your goals are, I'm actually going to encourage you to screenshot this. And then since you registered, and actually for all biology students, I'll be sending these slides out afterwards. So you have a touch point of many, many, many resources that are hosted on these pages. So for each career path, there's often professional organization that goes along with it, and hopefully they can be a resource for you along the way so that you never feel quite alone. So pausing one more moment for a screenshot for those, and then just remember you'll have the slides as well. And then I think my last step is to highlight what we'll be covering today. Yes, there are so many things that we want to tell you about preparing for your pathway. And today is framed as an orientation. So we're doing a big picture view. How are you going to set yourself up during your time at SF State? What are those guidelines you're going to want to have as you go through your classes semester by semester? For example, academic planning and taking care of your GPA. And then a little bit about who is going to help you along the way, your recommendations, your own personal development for a personal statement. And we're going to collect the questions for at the end. Feel free to type them at any time you want, and hopefully we'll get to them and gather them as we can so that you will have some answers today. I think actually I do have some more slides. So this is a common question. What major should I choose? And oftentimes people are looking at between, cell and molecular biology, microbiology. But really, I think what I've heard from many of the professionals as I try to sharpen my skills preparing people who I encounter who are pre-health are that you find a major that you are passionate in. There are a general set of prerequisites, often chemistry, biology, health-related classes that people will want for your health careers. There are lots of different ways that people accumulate those prerequisites. But I think that an undergraduate degree in general is useful for demonstrating that you are proficient and motivated in order to process information, to turn words on a page into actions. And that could be even in the social sciences. So we want to make sure that you are engaged, you're participating in a way that stimulates your brain to connect with your goals. And it can really be a wide variety of actual declared majors. Within biology, I think a number can be helpful. If you choose to do a biology major, then we're happy to support you in that, but there's no wrong degree. All right, I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Magaña here.
Thank you, Mika. I appreciate that. I just want to reiterate the importance of what you just said. One of the biggest mistakes that pre-health students often do in their undergraduate career is feel that they have to choose a major that's related to science because in some way it will make them more competitive. That is a falsehood. Ultimately, what matters is that you get the most extensive education that you can get. This is the only time in your life where you are going to be able to pursue areas of interest and subjects that you personally have an interest in. And frankly, you're going to do better academically in fields and in subjects that you actually enjoy learning about. All right. So if you have a passion in anthropology or ethnic studies, or Spanish, or linguistics, or literature, or history, pursue that as your major, because ultimately this is your life and your academic, pursuit. Ultimately, for health profession schools, the requirements are you have to meet their requirements, and each school has a unique set of prerequisites that you are required to do and complete prior to applying to whatever school it is that you want to do. The most important thing is you want to do as well as you can academically with regard to your grades. And that includes both your cumulative GPA, which means every subject that you took in whatever post-high school program you were in. So that includes community college transcripts, summer classes, whatever, all of that, all of those grades count as part of your cumulative GPA, which will be required to report when you apply to a pre-health program. Then there is the science GPA. And that science GPA includes all of the science courses with high emphasis on the prerequisites that you are required to attend. Okay? So there are two levels of GPAs that you guys have to keep track of. You could have a very strong cumulative GPA, but not a very strong science GPA. And that's not going to work in your favor because if you did not do well in your prerequisites, even though you have a strong cumulative, that could potentially work against you. So having said that, it's really important to think how you space out your classes, because many problems or a real frequent challenge, particularly for first generation college students, is they tend to overload semesters. We'll take too many science classes, or we'll be told by a misguided advisor that they have to take biology and chemistry within the same semester. By all means, do not do that if you do not feel that you are capable of doing that. So which one was that? Oh my God, I'm sorry. Did we move to, how do I decide which courses to take? I'm sorry. There we go. Thank you. So I think it is important, right, when you're trying to decide which prerequisites I need to take, it's important to look online at some of the schools that you're interested in. So if you're interested in pre-med, look at some of the AMCAS, I'm blanking on the, Kelechi, help me, I'm blanking on
AAMC.
Thank you. I had a senior moment. Look on that website to find out what are the prerequisites for most medical schools, right? Or for nursing programs and so forth. So it looks here that there were some classes that are listed, right? Some classes that you may be familiar with, which would count as part of your prerequisites. In general, and I can speak for most programs, PA programs and pre-medical programs, because I am also a medical director of a physician assistant program, you have to generally have a year of biology, a year of chemistry, both of those with labs, a year of physics, right? And that would include organic chemistry as well. And then some medical programs do require calculus or statistics. Some nursing programs require some unique prerequisites. So it's important that you get a good sense of what the prerequisites are for the particular career and school that you are interested in, and then making sure that the classes at San Francisco State count for those prerequisites. You cannot assume that a certain biology class, simply because it says biology, intro to biology, will count as towards prerequisites for medical school. That's particularly true for nursing. Many of the science classes that count for nursing do not automatically transfer over for medicine. So it's very important that you talk with your advisors to ensure that there is an alignment with the prerequisites and what is required for the particular program that you're interested in. And as I said, there are some careers whose prerequisites overlap. Physician assistant, medicine overlap very, very closely, except for PA programs, you may need to require an additional gross anatomy course. So we can move on. So having said that, make sure that you meet with your major advisor and share with them your career path to ask them to help you create a roadmap to graduation. And there's a link there to all the advisors, particularly those related to biology in the Department of Biology, who you can choose and try to find somebody who aligns with your major. Now, having said that, my friends, we have to be clear that not all advisors at San Francisco State are trained or really knowledgeable about how to advise for pre-health careers. So take that with a grain of salt. One of the first questions you have to ask if you are pre-health to your advisor is how comfortable or how familiar are you with the application process to my career choice? If they say we're somewhat familiar, then take what they offer, but make sure you supplement it with additional information and facts, particularly from the websites. If they have no familiarity with it, take them at their word, use them for what they can offer in terms of information about classes and how to distribute your prerequisites, and then make sure that you supplement your information with other resources. Okay, that's critically important. You need to get effective pre-health advising. With regard to taking care of your GPA, I think this is me as well. While this is undoubtedly an important criteria, you are not solely defined by your GPA. Remember, many schools do what we call holistic review. They look at other events in your life, your lived narrative, your personal statement, your list of extracurricular activities. They want to see a really full-rounded person. And what have you done in your life that demonstrates a commitment to the career that you're interested in? And also, what are the challenges and special circumstances you have faced that may have impacted your performance in school, right? Now, having said that, let me still not underestimate the importance of your academics. If you do not do well academically, right, in school, it certainly makes it harder. It will certainly make it harder, and you will have to remediate some of those classes, maybe through a post-bac program or an informal post-bac program, or taking additional classes. So it's always important when you are going on this journey to start as strong as you possibly can. Get as best grades you can. So when planning your course schedule, you should consider the workload that will allow you to be successful. If you're taking far too many units and working 2 jobs, you are not setting yourself up for success. If you feel that your high school preparation prepared you ineffectively for really hard science classes, then make sure that you get the additional support and tutoring and academic advising to optimize your success. I cannot tell you the number of students I've worked with, pre-health students, who have tried to struggle through the academics by themselves without reaching out for help because of embarrassment, or because they don't want to bother somebody, or they simply just don't know how to do so. That is a mistake, and you are just really pretty much sabotaging yourself if you don't utilize those resources. So if you have a job or your caretaking responsibilities, slow down your workload, slow down your schedule, take fewer units so that you can optimize your success. It may mean that you have to lengthen your time in college, and that's okay. I think the average time in college for students is extended beyond 4 years because of the need, right, to work extra jobs and so on and so forth. So do what you need to do. It is okay to slow down. And in fact, it's recommended, because I'd much rather you get a solid high GPA and start strong, and then you can fill in all the other elements as you go along. And we generally recommend that you shouldn't take any more than 6 to 9 units of STEM subjects per semester. Okay, if you're taking more than those units in the STEM subject, that's probably way too much. Way too much. Anything is done. Am I the next one? Okay, this is me too. All right. So as I said, if you're not meeting your own expectations for grades, seek help. And I'm hoping that if you're a pre-health, your expectations for grades are A's. Okay? Because a C and a D is not competitive enough to make you, a great applicant for a health career. And frankly, you're making it harder for yourself. So your expectations in terms of achievement should be as high as you can get them, A's, because then your GPA will show that, look, most important thing is that professional programs want proof that you are able to do well in sciences. If you are incapable of showing that in your transcript, how else are they going to know that you can manage a medical program, a podiatry program, a nursing program, a physician assistant program? Because those are primarily science. So if you're struggling, if your academic undergraduate record shows poor performance in sciences across the board, where is the proof that you can do well in that school? And why should they take a chance on you, even if the rest of your application is incredibly strong, right? Because they don't want to set you up for failure. So you have to demonstrate that. And that's where standardized exams like the MCAT and GRE can also balance that out and show some success. As I said, there are specific groups and mechanisms on campus that are designed to support student success, such as the Tutoring and Academic Support Center, has standing appointments and drop-in hours to check in about coursework. If you are not utilizing those resources, you are not helping yourself and doing yourself justice. There is no reason why those resources are on campus and not being utilized by students who are struggling. It makes absolutely no sense. So utilize them. Please ask for help. First, ultimately, you want to go in healthcare. Healthcare is asking your patients to ask you for help. It's a little hypocritical if you're going to go into a profession where we're asking our patients to ask us for help and you are not willing to do the same for yourself. Doesn't align, my friends. All right. And then an undergraduate specialist can help you with submitting a request to withdraw if you feel that is necessary, grade replacement policies, and in any incompletes. Please do not wait to the very last minute to address those issues. That what ultimately becomes too late, that you end up with a D or an F on your transcript, which is permanent, and schools will see. You want to avoid those. So if you are struggling, be proactive about it and get the help and do what you need to do. Okay, I'll stop there.
All right, thank you, my friend. I echo everything that was just said. I see some of you taking notes feverishly, and that's always a good thing. So one of the just one important factor of many of the applications that you all will be putting together in a couple of years. And let me specify by saying the competitive applications that you will be putting together in a couple of years are going to be your letters of recommendation. Okay, so just by a quick show of your hand raise feature or dropping in the chat with a yes, how many of you have ever had to ask for a letter of recommendation before? Quick show of hands. Yes. Okay. All right. So good numbers, right? It's hard to kind of navigate or escape higher education and all of the different programmings without needing a letter of recommendation at some point, right? So it's something that we're all going to need one at some point in time, right? And in your futures, you all are going to be letter writers too. So let's keep that in mind for now. But these are really, really important, right? Because the letter writers really do present sort of a deeper dive into who you are as a person, right? And so of course you are a student, but you're not just a student. And so when you're thinking about who you're going to be asking for letters, part of this will be dependent upon the program that you are applying to, right? So always make sure that you familiarize yourself with the specific requirements of the program that you are going to be applying to, because what you don't want to do is provide letters from people that are not accepted by the program that you're applying to, right? So that's going to be something that they say, okay, did the student really pay attention? You know, so if we're not getting the letters that we're asking for, that's going to be perhaps a cue or a signal to them that maybe this student is not really paying attention to the information that we're putting out there, right? So I know that this can be anxiety provoking for people, right? Asking for a letter, and I've written many letters in the years that I've been doing this work, and it actually is one of the things that I really do enjoy because I understand the importance of letters, and I know the type of bravery that it can require to ask for a letter. What I will say is that when you are asking for a letter, you don't want to just ask for any old letter, right? You really want to be clear with what you want, right? You want a good letter of recommendation, a glowing letter of recommendation. The word we often use is a strong letter of recommendation, right? Because if the letter is not a strong letter, then it may not be that impactful. And so when you are looking for people to ask, make sure that you are explicit about asking them, can you write me a strong letter of recommendation? Because unfortunately, we have seen letters make or break student applications, right? And so you don't want to be the student that has a letter that's just kind of lukewarm, right? Yes, I knew the student. They were one of 100 students in my class. They were there regularly. They got a B. Well, awesome. I didn't really learn anything more than what I could have found out perhaps through looking at transcripts, right? And so you want to be able to cultivate relationships with your letter writers, right? And so if it's a professor, I know many students are like, I don't have anything in common with my professor. How am I supposed to connect with them? The reality is that in order for them to be a professor, they had to once be a student. So there's always ways to connect with your faculty and with your professors. So of course, there's the content of the information and the material that the course is focused upon. So of course, attending office hours, right? This is something that I talk about often with many of my mentees and students, because some of them find it really, really hard to go to office hours because they're like, well, I don't want to feel like I'm just trying to like suck up and just be there showing my face. Well, guess what? If that is going to ultimately give you the opportunity to have a letter that is a strong letter, then you have to do what you have to do, right? And so, no, I'm not a fan of just trying to, I think they call it brown nosing, right? Attend if you actually have questions. And quite frankly, in a lot of these questions, in a lot of these courses, there are things that are not always easily explained in the course of the lecture, right? So office hours really does provide you that opportunity to say, hey, you know what? I know you talked about this. I read it over in lecture. I even watched some YouTube videos, but this still wasn't completely clear to me. Could you, do a little bit of a deeper dive of an explanation? So there's always the content that you can talk about, but it's also an opportunity for you to show that you're a lifetime learner, right? That to show your curious nature as a student, because believe it or not, faculty they don't just look for the student who is completely doing well. They look for the student that has drive, that has motivation, right? That is curious in general, right? And so even if it isn't one of your most favorite topics to learn about, the concept or the skills set that you pick up as a student travel with you for the rest of your life. And so that's something then that your letter writer can speak to, right? It shows your persistence, it shows your perseverance. And at the end of the day, to be clear, if I'm grading and doing final grades and I'm thinking over the course of the semester, the student that I remember from office hours, if they're on the edge of a grade, guess who's going to get the benefit? That student whose name and face I know, as opposed to the student that I never saw at all during office hours, all right? So again, instructors, they know that this is a part of who they are in terms of their role, right? And so you shouldn't feel like you are impressing yourself upon somebody to do something that they don't want to do. They know that this comes with the territory. And I think Mika just dropped that in the chat. I will say, I remember literally, I had a letter writer. In her letter, she wrote that I got an A in the course, and I did not get an A. I think I got like a B plus or something. I was like, I didn't get an A. She was like, you didn't? She was like, well, you were such an awesome student. I totally thought you got an A. How did you not get the A? I was like, well, you tell me, right? So again, you want to make sure that you're forging those kinds of relationships where they're just going to really be excited to help support you in your application. So moving on to the next slide about your, I believe, personal statements. Yes. So I feel very, very, very passionate about personal statements. I do a series of workshops over the summer with our students in the Aspiring Physicians program that is all about speaking to your personal narrative, right? Being a storyteller, and the fact that every single one of you has a unique story to tell, just by virtue of your lived experience, right? And so what you really want to, one, realize that for many of the applications that are submitted, the personal statement is such a critical piece because it provides a literal window into who you are that only you can provide to the people who are reviewing the applications. And so as it states here, many of these people are reviewing hundreds of applications, right? So think about, okay, what's going to stand out? There's going to be tons of people who have grades that are, stellar, right? There's going to be tons of people who have done volunteer work. So it's not enough to just kind of fit yourself into a cookie cutter mold that you think, right, is what they want to hear. But really you want to speak about why this career for you. So we asked that question at the beginning. Why do you want to be in this career? So what's your why, right? What's your motivation? What's your driving force? Because that has to be crystal clear. I always tell my students and people that I'm helping, it's always better to paint a picture, right? Show rather than tell. So why is it this career for you in particular? And then I want to know, how have you actually explored this career? It's one thing to tell me, oh, you want to be a physician, or oh, you want to be a nurse, but have you actually explored what it means? Because the idea of being a physician in the 5-year-old mind or the 6-year-old mind is a lot different than the reality, right, of what it takes to get there and live it every single day. And so how have you explored that career? And in the process of exploring that potential career, what did you actually learn about the career, about yourself, right? About how you can personally make those connections. And ultimately, how will this impact you in that career in the future? So you have to see yourself in the future, right? And you have to be able to write about it in such a way that is compelling to the reader, that shows them, okay, they have a strong motivation for why. They've had this dream either for a long time or maybe even recently, but they are committed to this dream. They've done the work to explore what it means to actually be in this career, in this profession, and they can see themselves in the future in such a way that they're conveying to me before they even get there that this is the type of health professional that they're going to be. And so if you can find a way to craft all of those things into your own unique, powerful story and narrative, that's going to be what stands out, right? At the end of the day, I always tell students, it's like a movie, right? The movie is 2 hours, 2+ hours long. A trailer is about a minute long. Your personal statement is the trailer to your life. So you want to have your trailer written in such a way that makes people say, hey, we have to bring this student in to learn more about them. All right. And so take that as a take home, right? So work on it early. Start early. It's never too early to start work on your personal statement. Next slide. I think I have a couple more with the, so getting experience in the real world about clinical and research experience. I can't tell you the number of times students ask us about how to get experience in the real world. Things have been really, really rough with the pandemic. So I'll just start there, acknowledge that on the front end. It's been really, really tough to get clinical experience, right? And so many people have experienced that, but also committees also recognize that. So there are different clinics that are available. This is just a very, very short list of clinics that are actually available to you. Many people that I know, many of you actually mentioned family members that are health professionals. Hello, you better go ask that aunt or that uncle or whoever they may be, or their relatives, right, or their colleagues. Can you take some time to, one, just do either informational interviews just as a start, or then asking about different ways that you can actually get clinical experience. There's ways to get either work, training opportunities while you're an undergrad. There are summer programs that are dedicated completely to getting you clinical research experience. So you should look for those, and now is a great time because those deadlines actually start some as early as December and January. All right, being able to get positions for those of you who will be graduating. San Francisco State, we actually have a partnership with the UCSF for it's called the CIRCLE program, CIRCLE, and don't worry, we'll share this with Mika and we can get this out to you, but it's designed specifically for recent graduates of San Francisco State University who are interested in being clinical research coordinators at UCSF. And they've had really tremendous success rates in getting students who are graduates of SFSU into clinical research CRC coordinator positions. So that's one great way that many students use it sort of as a go-between, in between while they're taking their prep years to apply for either medical school or nursing or dentistry. And I think that we have some other examples of how to get this. The next slide, I think, is probably continued examples of getting the clinical and research work. Yes, so all of these hospitals, right? Some of you were born in some of these hospitals. All right, take the time to reach out, check out their websites, send information out. Again, I'm a big fan of informational interviews. So either you can have people that you can reach out to directly. We have Dr. Magaña on here. We have Dr. Kirakosian on here. So there are people who are happy to try to make connections for you, right? But it's important for you to do your homework as well. And also, don't do something just because you feel like you have to, right? Don't do it just because you're trying to check off a box that you feel like everybody else is doing. Because if you don't have a passion or an interest for it, that's also going to show through. Because when you're doing any of these interactions or these activities, hopefully in the future, it will be a letter of recommendation. But if it was an area that you weren't really passionate about and you didn't really show dedication to, that's going to potentially come through in your letter as well. So don't feel like, oh, someone said I have to do this, so if I don't do that, then I won't get into nursing school or I won't get into medical school. Right? So don't pigeonhole yourself in that type of way. Make sure that you're really passionate about having the experience that can expose you to different things, but not feeling so forced that you do something that you don't really have a passion for. Are there other slides? Oh, yes, continued. I think that was it. Yep. Just continued volunteer experiences. A lot of people are doing a lot of work overseas, international. Some students take opportunity when they're doing study abroad to do volunteering. So this is, again, just a list of different programs that you can check out. These are things you can go and find on your own. We want to make sure that you just kind of take the meaty parts of it with you, right? Find the things that you feel most passionate about, that you feel most drawn to, and then you can approach us. We are happy to help you find the resources that make the most sense for you and that are going to be the best fit for you. And I think there was a question, but we'll come back to that in the end in terms of, thank you, about the letters of rank or the personal statement. Thanks.
I'm going to jump in and just do this slide so quickly. We actually had an opportunity to hear from student leaders in biology. They have these incredible tips. Again, I'm going to suggest that you follow at SF State Bio, where I'm going to just amplify these for everybody. And you'll see these on the slides. In the interest of getting to your questions, I'm going to move forward to this slide and invite Dr. K to tell us about Sci 239.
Hi, everybody. Wonderful talk. I've been going in and out to seeing patients between the slides that have been presented, but for Science 239 class, it's an introduction to health professions, and we have multiple health professions, guest speakers that come to the class to give talks about their own professions. Last week, we had a physical therapist. A week prior to that, we had an OBGYN doctor. That's a really close friend of mine. Week before that, we actually had a UCSF first-year medical student that was in my anatomy class about two years ago, I believe. And she talked about the process of having, gap years and how to study for certain things. A lot of the students have been asking those specific questions, and she was very, very helpful in answering that. And I also invite my own residents. I'm the residency director at the Veterans Hospital for our surgery component. So I invited our residents, our students, and they come and give a lecture speaking as well. We also do suture workshops. We do suturing in the class, and we prepare students ahead of time to kind of prepare while they go into the medical school and podiatry school, DO schools, optometry schools, any of the processes that they need to. It's a good preparation class for that specific reason. We also do case workups. So I present a lot of my surgical cases. I present a lot of the other cases that we do. We do about a couple of cases, here and there, but I also upload onto our website. I have a book that has 100 cases, and we follow that guidelines just to do chronological order of how to work up a patient, what do they present with, and things like that. It's been very good. The class, we get somewhere between 18 to 23, 24 students. This semester, we've had a good success with that as well. The largest class we've had was 30 when we were online during COVID times, or 35, because I guess people benefited from staying at home, and it's a night class. Unfortunately, it starts at 6 o'clock from 6 to 7:40, so it was kind of a benefit for the students who could not make it in person. But that kind of sums it up. And if anybody has any questions, we can definitely get students in, and we do a lot of good things in the class.
Thank you so much. If I may speak for the Department of Biology, we're very fortunate to have you sharing that experience. And again, all the qualifications of the people on this panel could not be listed on a slide. They hopefully have demonstrated to you that they have a wealth of knowledge, and I'm sure you have just as many questions. So at this time, I'm going to actually ask for us to open it up to your questions. In line with Dr. Magaña's, hey, it's really nice to see people. You're welcome to use the raise your hand function and speak up if you like. We can also have you type your questions into chat. Hopefully, as this seminar is a kickoff, we can stay in touch and you'll have more opportunities, but I'm really looking forward to hearing from you all today.
Mika, can I add one more thing?
Absolutely.
We also, I've taken students to my surgery cases as well. So we do take students, usually the operating rooms or the hospitals ask about 2 students per surgical case. And last week, we had 6 students come and shadow us in the operating room. So we had 2 students per surgery, and they had a phenomenal outcome. And I usually post these kind of stuff on my own Instagram page as well. So we're all about student advocate and student education.
So I've made the slides go away to focus on our participants here. I'm going to get the information actually for that class so I can paste it into the chat, but I'm going to invite you to share your thoughts, students.
No questions? You guys have it all figured out? Awesome.
Hi, everybody. My name is Guadalupe. I go by Lulu. I'm actually back at SF State after a 5-year break and switching fields. So I have been a medical assistant for 4 years now, and I'm determined and this is where I want to grow. So I was actually really fortunate to have my doc is on vacation. So I'm a resource in the department right now, and I had time to join this meeting. So I feel like it's all fate working out for me here. I just want to say thank you for everybody's information and input. You guys have no idea how much you have literally grown my aspiration in this career path. I had a lot of doubts about myself because of my history in school and personal history with life experiences, as I mentioned first. I didn't think that I would have a chance, but honestly, like, it's quite emotional for me to hear everything that I heard today and realize I'm not automatically, put aside from this. I'm still, very much in the game, and I'm so motivated, and just thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it.
That's wonderful to hear. Thank you for sharing that, Guadalupe. It is never, ever, ever too late to pursue your dreams and goals. Age should not be a factor in any of this decision. All right. Sometimes it takes circuitous routes and pathways for us to ultimately get there. Those journeys are what makes us unique and frankly, very attractive to a lot of admissions programs. If you can highlight that journey and what you learned from that journey and the lessons and how you grew, that will only make you a stronger applicant. Absolutely. So many of those things that we perceive as deficits and weaknesses in our applications actually end up being quite our assets, right? In terms of giving us perspective and knowledge and so on and so forth of what people, right? This profession of healthcare is all about dealing with people and their complexities. And so the more that we understand the nature of that through our lived experiences or through our volunteer experiences and can talk about it, the stronger it makes us an applicant. Again, repeating that it's not all about the grades. So well done. I'm glad that you came to that realization.
Thank you. I look forward to working with all of you.
Absolutely. Echo everything, Lulu. So we need you in the field. Wherever you decide that you want to land, make sure that you continue to pursue it. The reality is that we are the only ones that can take ourselves out of the game. All right. There's only one way to guarantee that we do not accomplish a goal or a dream, and that's to not go after it. I feel the same about applications for programs. There's one way to 100% guarantee that you won't get admitted or accepted, and that's to not apply. Other than that, you always have a chance. So don't tell yourself no. That's what I always tell my students. Like, I'm not going to tell me no. They're going to have to tell me no. All right. And I think there was another thing that I want to say. Oh, and I will share this. And I don't know why. I just felt led to share this because I hear it come up often by many students, especially when they're feeling like, oh, I'm too quote unquote old, right? Or time is wasting and I need to hurry up. And so it's funny. I've been having these conversations recently with my mom. Her physician recently retired. And so she's now been going through this process where she's having to have like every time she goes and she sees a new physician or a new provider, and she's like, oh, none of them are like my old physician. I just want my old physician back. And she's like, and some of them are too young. I don't know if they really know what they're talking about. So that thing that you're looking at is like, you're trying to hurry up and get there. Remember, there's a whole population of people out there that are like, no, we think age is a good thing, right? Lived experience is a great thing. So don't forget about that while you're on your journey as well.
Thank you.
I can add on to that as well too. From my personal experience and finishing medical school, I actually took 2 years off before starting residency program. And there's things, I love that bottom slide where there's obstacles. You're never going to have that flat road. And everybody will have their own obstacles, and it's how you manage it and how you take care of it and how you finish it. It's that end line that counts. So it took me 2 years. While I was taking my gap year doing that, I actually worked in a medical office, and I was going to surgeries and doing that. And then I was lucky enough, opportunity opened up. I got into a surgical program at the Veterans Hospital in San Francisco, and everything else kind of aligned after that. So you will have that experience, and you will have a little bit challenges in here and there, and just manage it, and you'll be fine.
Thank you.
I see this question in chat. I'm a first year at SF State. What are some things I should be doing? I want to become a nurse. Thoughts?
So as a first year, you have the whole, opportunity now to start on solid ground, right? You do not have to be concrete in what your specific career goal is at this moment. If you know that you are potentially interested in a nursing career or potentially pre-health, do what we said, right? Plan out kind of your academic load so that it optimizes doing very well in your classes. That's one of the most important things you guys can do as a first year, is start off strong with your academic record. The other important thing too is for those of you who are not first years, it's equally important to show upward trends in your grades. So if you started off somewhat rough because of life circumstances or lack of preparation, that trend is important, particularly with PA programs. We actually look at the last 60 units as a separate GPA to see those trends upwards, and that can actually help you with PA programs, not necessarily with medical school. But the other part of it for first years, if you're not really sure, this is the time to start exploring, asking questions, participating in pre-health clubs, pre-PA club, pre-nursing club, pre-med, pre-podiatry, whatever it is. Start taking advantage of the resources and doing interviews and finding out a little bit more about the career. Do your homework, read, on YouTube, there are tons of videos of people who are in their professions who talk about that. There are fairs, that are hosted by medical students and nursing students to give you, experience and mentorship. Do you know how many students from San Francisco State that we actually distribute those to who do not take advantage of those experiences? Do not. And that's a shame because you're missing out. So, optimize your schedule so you do well, learn the landscape of the university to know what your resources are. So you have that available, right? During the full 4 to 5 years you're there, and start doing your homework and exploring more information about the potential career you're interested in. I don't know if my colleagues, Dr. I'm sorry, Dr. Arman, has any other thoughts, or Dr. Kelechi?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree on that. A couple of times during the semester, we do suture workshops. And this last time we had about 35 students come to the class. And it's not only the suturing that they practice on, we also interact on certainly about the schools and MCATs and nursing programs. It's a good environment to have discussions about that. So we usually host that twice during the semester. I did one back in October, and then we're going to do another one in 2 weeks, and I'll send everybody the dates if you guys want to share it on your Instagram pages as well.
And I'm noticing it is time. Hopefully we can stay in touch, as I know there are lots of questions, and I really want to let you all know that the Department of Biology is happy to help as much as we can. My role is to help undergraduate students. And if you don't really know what your question is, you're welcome to just send an email saying, hey, I'm pre-health, I have some questions. We can talk on the phone. I'm a very no judgments kind of person, and I'm down to get curious with you. So hopefully you have help in many forms after today.
Mika, sorry to interrupt. I'm going to quickly send a resource A number of programmatic resources from my program called Faces for the Future for students to be able to access. It's a number of different summer programs and academic year programs for college students that might be useful for you all. So go ahead and take a look at this resource. It might be helpful.
And our final, I don't even think that we mentioned this Aspiring Physicians Program. Mika will share that information with you as well. We just had a webinar last night. Oh, can you not hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Just a mention of the Aspiring Physicians Program. We had a webinar last night. Actually, we'll be hosting another one in January. So for those that are pre-med, who identify as Latinx or African-American, Black, or a combination thereof, if you're multi racial or ethnic backgrounds. So it starts off with a 6-week summer intensive opportunity to support students, and then it continues throughout the academic year with individualized advising, one-on-one, and goal setting. And so just working with the students throughout their journey towards a career in medicine.
Thank you so much. There are links right now, but these opportunities are for you, students. So click those links, ask questions, stay in touch. I'd like to thank our wonderful panelists and all of our wonderful participants today. Thank you so much, everybody. And I am rooting for you all right? Have a wonderful day. We'll be in touch.
Good luck, everybody.
You got this.
Take care.
Take care.